In recent years, an idea has been repeated like a mantra in self-help books, motivational speeches, and social media. The goal of life is to be happy. This seemingly harmless phrase is treated as an absolute truth, almost sacred. It is taught from an early age, embedded in advertising slogans, reinforced by coaches and influencers who promise magical formulas to achieve a permanent state of well-being. The message is clear: if you are not happy, something is wrong with you. And if you are suffering, you need to do something immediately to rid yourself of the pain. But what if this idea, instead of being liberating, is precisely the trap that is imprisoning you? What if this obsession with happiness is making you fragile, unstable, and increasingly dependent on external circumstances to feel good? Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher many still avoid for fear of facing uncomfortable truths, brutally and directly denounced this illusion. For him, this blind pursuit of happiness is not only futile, it is dangerous. It is a symptom of a decadent culture, a culture that has traded inner strength for emotional anesthesia. Nietzsche saw in this promise of happiness a decadent morality, which he called slave morality. An ethics that values comfort over overcoming, conformity over courage, and immediate relief from pain over transformation through it. According to him, a generation educated to believe that life should always be pleasant is, in fact, being prepared for collapse, because suffering is inevitable, and those who do not know how to deal with it inevitably succumb. The happiness they sell today is fragile. It depends on factors you do not control: compliments, likes, money, stability, external validation. And when these elements disappear, and they always do, what remains? Nietzsche forces us to confront this question with brutal seriousness. He proposes an alternative that seems harsh at first glance, but carries within it a transformative power. Stop chasing happiness and start cultivating strength. Not physical strength, but strength of spirit, psychological resilience, the ability to transform suffering into growth, frustration into wisdom, and pain into self-knowledge. "What does not kill me makes me stronger" is not a motivational catchphrase. It is a declaration of war against a culture that infantilizes us and makes us dependent on constant pleasure. Nietzsche understood that true power does not come from avoiding suffering, but from facing it, from looking pain in the eye and saying, "You will not destroy me." His proposal is radical. Abandon the question, "How can I be happy?" and adopt a new question as the guide for your life. How can I become stronger? In this video, we will dismantle the farce of happiness as a life goal. We will understand why this obsession is weakening you, how Nietzsche predicted this decadence with chilling accuracy, and what the alternative path is. More difficult, yes, but infinitely more powerful. The path of inner strength. If you have ever felt tired of chasing something that never arrives, if you have realized that the more you seek happiness, the emptier you feel, perhaps it is time to stop. Stop running and start strengthening yourself, because the storm will not stop. But you can become the kind of person who walks through the storm with your head held high, ready to face this truth. We live in a time when happiness has become not just a desire, but an obligation. It is treated as an inalienable right, as if any feeling of sadness, boredom, or frustration were a sign of personal failure. You need to be happy at work, in your relationships, on social media. You need to smile, be productive, be at peace, all the time. And if you're not, then there's something wrong with you. Something that needs to be fixed, treated, bought, anesthetized. This modern narrative is fueled by a billion-dollar industry that sells happiness as a product. Books, courses, spiritual gurus, and influencers promise quick formulas to achieve this supposedly ideal state. Meditate for 10 minutes a day. Repeat positive affirmations. Have a gratitude mindset. Organize your routine. Buy this app. Take that trip. Eat this food, avoid bad vibes, distance yourself from toxic people. The message is simple: follow this path and you will be happy, guaranteed. But Nietzsche did not buy this lie. For him, this obsessive pursuit of happiness as the purpose of life is not only childish, but deeply corrosive. It creates individuals who become emotionally dependent, fragile, unable to cope with any form of adversity. People who build their identity on quicksand. When they are happy, they feel alive. When they are not, they completely lose their sense of existence. This is the essence of the slave morality described by Nietzsche, an ethics based on the denial of suffering, the refusal of discomfort, the dependence on external rewards to validate one's own existence. In this morality, everything that is difficult, painful, or demanding is seen as an enemy, and the individual transforms into someone who lives fleeing from pain, from loneliness, from failure, from responsibility. They do not live with courage. They survive with fear. Nietzsche argued that this type of morality does not produce free or strong human beings. It produces servants, people who need the world to always be in their favor, to feel good. But the world does not cooperate. Life is not fair, nor is it concerned with your comfort. And sooner or later, it exacts its price. Because those who build their psyche on the expectation that everything will go right inevitably break when things inevitably go wrong. The culture of happiness has created a generation that confuses well-being with meaning in life, that confuses pleasure with purpose, and that, at the slightest sign of distress, despairs. But Nietzsche knew that true life begins when the individual stops protecting themselves from pain and starts using it as a tool, when they abandon the illusion that life should be comfortable and accept that it is, by nature, challenging, and that this is not a problem, it is an opportunity. It is precisely at this point that we enter the heart of Nietzsche's proposal, because if happiness is a trap, what should take its place as the center of human existence? His answer is as provocative as it is liberating. Strength. Not the strength to dominate others, but the strength to dominate oneself, the will to power. And that is what we will talk about in the next part. Prepare to enter a territory where suffering ceases to be an enemy and becomes raw material for evolution. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. The modern obsession with happiness not only generates frustration, it shapes emotionally fragile individuals incapable of dealing with the inevitable storms of existence. Nietzsche saw this with surgical clarity. By placing happiness as the ultimate goal of life, modern humans become slaves to circumstances. They only feel good when everything is under control, when everything is comfortable, predictable, and safe. But just one loss, one failure, one disappointment is enough for their entire psychic structure to collapse. This emotional fragility is not an accidental weakness. It is the direct product of a belief system that rejects suffering as a fundamental part of existence. When discomfort is treated as abnormal, every painful experience becomes unbearable. When pain is seen as an enemy, any crisis turns into an existential threat. And thus, the culture of happiness generates individuals who, instead of growing in the face of difficulty, implode before it. Nietzsche called this decadence, a state of degeneration of the human spirit, where everything that requires effort, confrontation, and overcoming is avoided. Where the priority is not to live deeply, but to avoid any discomfort. The fragile individual adapts to this system perfectly. They avoid conflicts, seek constant approval, take refuge in distractions, and cannot bear the idea of being confronted with harsh truths. They live anesthetized. But this anesthesia comes at a high cost, the loss of oneself. The lives of these individuals turn into a game of escape. Escape from pain, escape from loneliness, escape from truth. And in this escape, they become increasingly dependent on external stimuli to feel good. They need likes to feel valued, compliments to feel capable, constant distractions to avoid facing the void. Nietzsche saw this as the ultimate expression of the herd morality, a mass psychology that suppresses individual strength in exchange for belonging and emotional security. But the most tragic thing is that this fragility disguises itself as sensitivity. Today, being sensitive is almost synonymous with being affected by everything. But for Nietzsche, true sensitivity is not reactivity. It is depth. It is perceiving the hidden layers of human experience without being destroyed by them. It is feeling the weight of existence without fleeing from it. The fragile sensitive panics in the face of suffering. The strong sensitive confronts it and transforms it. And here lies the point. Suffering does not destroy you. What destroys you is the illusion that it should never exist. It is this fundamental error that makes people emotionally fragile. Because they build their lives around avoiding pain instead of developing the capacity to endure it. And when inevitably pain knocks at the door, as it always does, they simply do not know what to do. They collapse, they regress, they give up. But there is another possibility, a choice that goes against everything modern culture preaches. Instead of avoiding suffering, you can choose it, you can use it. Nietzsche believed that pain has a purpose, that it is the most powerful instrument for shaping the human spirit, that each scar can be a symbol of strength if you have the courage to face it. And that is exactly what we will explore in the next part. What Nietzsche called the will to power has nothing to do with dominating others, but everything to do with mastering oneself. Are you ready to understand how suffering can become your greatest source of strength? If happiness as a goal generates fragility, Nietzsche offers us a radical antidote, the will to power. But it is essential to understand that this concept, often misunderstood, has nothing to do with dominating other people or conquering the outside world. It is about internal mastery. A force that emerges from confronting pain, from grappling with the raw reality of existence, from the courage to look within without averting one's gaze. Nietzsche proposed that life should not be lived in pursuit of pleasure or comfort, but as a battlefield where the individual tests, owns, and affirms themselves in the face of adversity. The will to power is the force that drives us to transcend our own limits, to grow not despite suffering, but through it. It is a philosophy that demands brutal courage because it forces us to abandon all comfortable illusions and face life as it truly is, harsh, unpredictable, and often indifferent. This will is not a fleeting desire or a fragile motivation like those sold in self-help videos. It is a primitive and existential force, a life drive that does not settle for safety or approval. The will to power demands risks. It requires you to move toward what you fear, to choose the harder path, to not only endure pain, but to transform it into fuel. Nietzsche saw suffering as an alchemical process, a raw material that, when faced with honesty and without victimhood, converts into strength, clarity, and depth. In his words, "From the school of war of life, what does not kill me makes me stronger." This phrase is not a motivational cliché. It is a brutal synthesis of a life lived with philosophical intensity, a life where each scar is a badge of honor, not of weakness. The individual guided by the will to power does not seek comfort, they seek overcoming. They do not want life to be easy. They want to be someone capable of facing any life. They understand that fleeing from pain is perpetuating one's own weakness, and that true strength is not the absence of suffering, but the ability to transform it into something greater. It is here that Nietzsche's philosophy diverges from almost everything modern culture teaches. While the world says, "Take the easier path," Nietzsche whispers, "Go where the weight is." Face what frightens you. Choose the discomfort that strengthens you instead of the pleasure that numbs you. This is the difference between living as a slave to emotions or as a creator of one's own destiny. But there is a powerful paradox here. Because, by abandoning the pursuit of happiness and embracing the construction of inner strength, something unexpected happens. Those who stop chasing pleasure and begin to develop psychological power discover a form of satisfaction that goes beyond momentary euphoria, the profound sense of integrity, of autonomy, of being able to endure, fall, and rise with one's own strength. And it is precisely about this that we will talk in the next part. What happens when you stop seeking happiness and, paradoxically, find something much more solid and lasting in the process? Let's explore this answer now, diving into the paradox of real satisfaction. By abandoning the pursuit of happiness, what remains? This question seems daunting to many, as the promise of a happy life is sold as the pinnacle of human fulfillment. But Nietzsche believed that by stopping the chase of this mirage, the individual begins to glimpse something infinitely more valuable, true satisfaction. Not fleeting pleasure, not circumstantial joy, but a deep sense of strength, meaning, and autonomy. An experience that does not depend on the external world, but arises from the conscious confrontation of pain and the deliberate overcoming of oneself. Superficial happiness, the kind that modern culture idolizes, is ephemeral. It depends on factors you do not control. The mood of those around you, job stability, social media status, social acceptance. When everything is in balance, you feel good. But just one instability can cause that castle to crumble. And when it falls, you not only lose the state of happiness, you lose your footing. Nietzsche invites us to go beyond this fragile dance between pleasure and pain. He proposes that there is a form of satisfaction that is not destroyed by adversities, because it is built through them. This satisfaction comes from the awareness that you are someone who endures, who does not need everything to be well to remain steadfast, who has learned to transform the deepest pains into catalysts of strength, clarity, and maturity. This type of fulfillment is not visible. It does not attract applause or likes, but it is solid, unbreakable, because it does not rely on illusions or external rewards, but on the inner truth of who you have become. It is born when you face your own vulnerability without fleeing, when you bear the weight of the world without letting it break you inside, when you know you can fall and still rise because you have built an internal structure that does not depend on anyone else to remain standing. Nietzsche knew that this path requires pain, and that is why almost no one chooses it, because it demands sacrifice. It requires giving up the comfort zone, easy certainties, shortcuts. But it also offers something that no shortcut can provide: pride. Not the vain pride that needs to be seen by others, but the silent pride of knowing that you are becoming someone that even chaos cannot destroy. And at this point, the great irony reveals itself. It is precisely when you stop seeking happiness that you begin to experience something much closer to true fulfillment. Not because everything has become easier, but because you have become stronger. And this strength allows you to find beauty even amidst pain, purpose even in crises, peace even in chaos. This is not happiness, it is depth. But to reach this level of existence, one question needs to be asked, and it is not what makes me happy, but what makes me stronger. This question changes everything. It forces you to look at life from another angle, to abandon the comfort of illusion, to challenge your own limits. And this is exactly what we will talk about in the next part. Nietzsche's great turning point lies in exchanging the pursuit of pleasure for the pursuit of inner power. And this transformation begins with a simple yet powerful question: how can I become stronger? If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebooks. Beyond the Shadow breaks down Jung's core ideas, while Dialogues with the Unconscious gives you a 30-day path to apply them in your life. Both are linked in the pinned comment. Most people spend their entire lives asking the wrong question. How can I be happier? This question, although seemingly harmless, carries a trap within it. It assumes that the ideal state of existence is pleasure, comfort, the absence of pain. And by making this your goal, you become a slave to everything that can take away your happiness: circumstances, opinions, losses, uncertainties. It's a path that leads to emotional dependency and a constant fear that something will go wrong. Nietzsche proposes a brutal, almost violent change at this starting point. He challenges us to change the question. Instead of asking, "How can I be happy?" he suggests, "How can I become stronger?" And this question changes everything, because it does not seek to avoid suffering. It asks how to endure it. It does not seek pleasure. It seeks power. Power in the purest and deepest sense. The power to resist, to grow, to transform in the face of adversity. Asking this question requires courage, because it will force you to look at the parts of yourself that you normally avoid. It will compel you to stop outsourcing blame, to stop hiding behind excuses, to stop protecting yourself with distractions. It will put you face to face with your own weakness and ask you to confront it without anesthesia, without escape. Nietzsche believed that true strength arises from confronting the truth. And the truth is, almost always, uncomfortable. It is knowing that you are afraid, that you fail, that you avoid. But it is also knowing that you can choose to do differently, that you can deliberately seek discomfort, challenges, limits, not to suffer gratuitously, but to test yourself, to expand, to rebuild. Becoming stronger is not a feeling. It is a practice. It is acting firmly when it would be easier to give in. It is maintaining your principles even when they put you in conflict with the world. It is facing loneliness, rejection, failure, and coming out the other side with more clarity, more structure, more presence. It is enduring anguish without succumbing to despair. It is walking upright even when everything around you is crumbling. This strength is not given, it is built, brick by brick, choice by choice. Every time you avoid the easy and choose the right. Every time you face fear instead of fleeing from it. Every time you silence yourself to listen to what is really happening inside you. Every time you refuse to be a victim and take full responsibility for your own evolution. Nietzsche saw this as a process of constant transformation. Human beings are not here to be happy. They are here to become something greater than themselves, to evolve, to forge a character that is unshakable in the face of life's inevitable tragedies. That is why he said we must become who we really are. And this is only possible when we stop seeking comfort and start seeking overcoming. And here lies the deepest irony. By asking ourselves, how can I become stronger? We free ourselves because we stop depending on a world that will never be stable, predictable, or fair, and start depending on our own ability to face it. This shift in focus returns control to us, because suffering ceases to be an enemy and becomes a training ground. But strength for Nietzsche was not just resistance, it was also creation. It was the ability to transform pain into wisdom, trauma into purpose, failure into drive. It was an active strength, not passive. And it is precisely here that we find the final paradox. By stopping the pursuit of happiness and starting the pursuit of strength, we end up discovering a much deeper and truer satisfaction. But this journey does not end here, because life, with all its brutality, will continue to test you. The storm will not stop. The pain will not disappear. The world will not become fairer. The final question is, Who do you need to become to get through all this and remain whole? And it is this answer that we will explore in the final part. Prepare to understand why you do not need an easier life, but a stronger psyche. The storm will not stop. The world will not slow down to wait for you. Losses will come, crises will catch up with you. The people you love may disappoint you, and the plans that seemed certain will crumble sooner or later. This is the brutal reality of existence, and there is no philosophy, belief, or escape that can prevent this. But Nietzsche taught us that freedom is not in changing the world. It is in becoming the kind of person who can navigate this world without being destroyed by it. You don't need an easier life. You need a stronger internal structure. You need to develop the courage to face pain without victimizing yourself, the resilience to rise even after losing everything, and the clarity to maintain your integrity even when chaos tries to corrupt you. This is the true strength that Nietzsche so exalted, the strength of those who choose truth over illusion, growth over comfort, responsibility over escape. While most live to avoid pain, the strong learn to shape it. They transform suffering into wisdom, failure into strategy, rejection into freedom. They are the ones who do not beg for a more generous fate, but build, with their own hands, a character capable of enduring any destiny. They are the ones who stand tall when everything collapses, not because they are cold or indifferent, but because they have deep roots. Nietzsche saw this process as a work of inner sculpture, a constant sculpting of oneself, where each blow of life serves to reveal the most solid form of your being. And the more you endure, the more you reveal yourself. The more you face, the more you know yourself. And the more you resist, the more power you gain, not over the world, but over yourself. And that is the only power that no one can take from you. So, if you've made it this far, you may have already understood. Happiness was never the path. It is an occasional consequence, not a destination. What you really need is to become someone strong enough to traverse any path. Because the storm will not stop. But you can become the kind of person who survives it, who walks through chaos with firmness, with clarity, with dignity, who looks at their own pain and says, "This will also forge me." And now I want to make you an invitation. Leave in the comments, what is the pain you need to transform into strength? It doesn't have to be a long text. It can be a word, a phrase, a silent confession, but write it down. Because the first step to strength is to stop fleeing. And sharing this with those who are here, with you, in this same quest, is already an act of power. And if this video confronted you, awakened you, or even disturbed you, it's because it fulfilled its role. But the journey doesn't end here. The next video is also important. It will take you even deeper into this journey of confronting the truth and building an unshakable self. Keep watching. See you there.